Let's go back to the inspector and look at how we can precisely position objects. This is very important in my book, and as far as any person who's trying to design a professional looking interface. You have to be able to have your objects be in the same place, so you don't have a video game going on your screen when you move from layout to layout where things are jumping all over the place. It's one of the most common things I see inside of developer solutions, or amateur developer solutions. Things jump around on the screen, and they really shouldn't. And one of the things you're going to see that jumps around on the screen is when we go from this to this. You'll see that, in fact, what we have to actually do is have these little guys down in the down position on each screen. And you're going to see that the list and the form jump around. We really don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to decide which one do we like the best. I like the list view here. I'm going to leave it right here. In fact, I'm going to line this up with my first name label here. And sometimes what I do is I go ahead and select both these and see if they're lined up. They're not. So I move the list view 1 pixel back. They're lined up, and it's a quick way to see if things are lined up rather than using T-squares or any kind of alignment tools. It's much faster. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and show my inspector, and then go to the position section. This is the area that originally made this inspector. It actually used to be called Object Info, and before that Object Size. It had a whole bunch of different names, but in the beginning all it had was this, and then they added the name, and then they added auto sizing, and now they've really exploded it for the inspector. But this is really helpful right here, this position and size. So let's look at it. What we can tell here is where this object is. So we can see that it's 12 pixels from the left, 11 from the top, 96 from the right, and 35 from the bottom. So that will help us to position an object on another layout in the same exact place. Typically what I do is I use the left and top to do that. You can use the right and bottom if you want, or any combination of these to do that. But this is your most typical. It's just at the top, and that's the way I do it. So we've got 12 and 11. We have to remember that. Come back here and make this 12. Just type it in and hit the Tab key or the Enter key or the Return key, and then type in 11. And so now they should be in the same spot. Now you don't quite see it because this is actually not in the down position. There we go. And actually what it'll really show you is when you're in browse mode. So let's take a look at it. We'll move to form view, and you see it moves just a little bit. Now the difference here is this little 3 pixel area here. So actually, even though we line them up, we want them to be 3 pixels off. So what we're going to do is move this one 3 pixels over. So we'll go into layout mode. 1, 2, 3, and we're set. Now it should be much better and not jump around a lot. And you can see how that's, actually I switched records there on accident. Now you can see how the words change, but it doesn't jump around. Now the other thing I don't like is that these are not the same size. This area right here, and we're really going to have to make this form view as big as the list view. So let's go into layout mode again, and we'll switch over here to list view. And I'm going to decide to maybe, well, I think this is good. We'll go ahead and click on the header, and you can see we have how far from the bottom it is, or the size. They're really kind of the same thing. So we'll take 64, move over here, and make this one 64. Hit the Tab key, and now we have a much, much better, when we go from layout to layout, we can see that there's a lot less jumping around. And so I like that a lot. So it makes a big difference. So we're going to do the same thing between billing and shipping now. Notice how they jump around? Well, let's go ahead and make it so they don't jump around like that. So let's go into layout mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first group these. So I'm going to select all this stuff, and then I'm going to come down here and group them. And then we'll go over here and group these as well. There we go. And what we want to do is take that position, decide which one's the best. So let's actually position this one really well since we've taken the category field off. Get it to where you like and go, okay, that's perfect. So I'm going to go and get that measurement, 41 and 135. We'll come over here, 41 and 135. And that should be lined up, although it's not. So you wonder why. Why did it work with form and list but not here? Well, the difference is this date of birth. See how much farther it comes out? We don't have that on here, so we need to line it up on the bottom. So here's a situation where you have to do that. So this is actually at 450, and so we can change this one to 450. Hit the tab, and we actually got that wrong. I thought that was the right place to do it, and actually I wanted to have the bottom edge, so we're going to change that back to what it was. We'll go back to 420 here. And now I've got it all messed up, so I'm just going to start over. So you see what sometimes a hard problem these things are. And I don't want to really take this out of the tutorial. I want you to see that I'm not perfect. Sometimes you have a little trouble with these things. So let's start over here again. So 41, 135. We'll do that. 41, 135. Okay, so now what we need to do is line this up. So this is the lower left-hand corner. So let's go ahead and take that bottom. What we need to do is actually what we really need is the top here. We need the top, and that's actually lined up there perfectly, 135 and 135. What we need here is to line up this right side, but here's the problem. These aren't the same on the right side. So you're all of a sudden going, oh wow, now I understand what the issue is. Okay, well I have to go ahead and ungroup this, and we'll go ahead and ungroup this, and now we can see what size these fields are. Well, that's with this, the width, 300. So we can come over here to these, select all of them, and change it to 300. There you go. Now we're probably going to be able to make this work. We'll group these again. You don't have to group them to make this work, but I just find it a little bit easier. It's not necessary. They'll still line up perfectly. And so now what we can do is say, okay, let's take that right side. That's 420. This one is 420. It's 412 now, so we'll change it to 420. And let's see how that worked out. Now I'm very happy. Look at how nice. There's no jumping around. It just makes it's a much calmer. It makes it so it's not like a video game. You don't want things moving around. You want it to be very calm and very professional, so people don't get all crazed out when things move all over the place. This is much nicer, this arrangement of fields here.